adjust it as you like. It's on.
I want to start with Shada Devi. It's not working, I don't... Yeah. No. It's too important.
Can you take a picture of deities before start there?
Yeah, because we're not sure if we just show the deities. So, they look like they're far away. Is there automatic zoom?
I really...
That's what I thought.
There's not a thing that you can move inside here?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bhagava Girivardhari Gopi Jana Yasodanandana Radadana Ranjana Yasodanandana Radadana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Ranachari Yamuna Tira Ranachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bhagava Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhagava Girivardhari Sodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Ranachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, so Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. Prabhupada's version up here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayamudiraye.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the Supreme Being, Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master.
Jai.
Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Vasai Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namade. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharine Nivesesha, Sunnivari Paskitadi Satarine. Okay. So, we're continuing. And by the way, we may end the class today with a song written by Narottam Das Thakur, featuring Mother Kachi if we have time. So if you don't have a phone with lyrics, then maybe you can look around and see if there are songbooks around, and I'll give you the title, but that's only if we have time. So we're continuing with reading the first canto, 19th chapter, entitled The Appearance of Sukadeva Goswami, and we're on text 29. We've been listening to the descriptions of Sukadeva Goswami's bodily features, how they were all extremely auspicious, and everyone could immediately tell, even though the common people, the children, and some women, they were sort of, mocking him or just thinking that he was some kind of oddity. And but then he arrives on the scene in the forest there with all the great sages and Sukadeva Goswami, and they see that how they receive him, and they immediately realize that they've made a mistake. And now Maharaj Parikshit, I believe, now we see how he receives Sukadeva Goswami. So it's text 29. Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya Tasmai Saparyam Sirasa Jahara Tasmai Saparyam Sirasa Jahara Tato Nivrita Hi Abhuta
Abhuta,
Striyo,
Striyo,
Arbaka,
Abaka,
Tato Nivritahi Abhuta Striyo, Arbaka,
Tato Nidrita, Hibuka, Striyo,
Abaka, Abaka, yeah, Abaka, yeah, Abaka. Mahashane,
Mahashane,
Sopa Vivesha,
Vivesha,
Pujita,
Pujita,
Mahashane Suba Visesha Pujita,
Mahasane, Sopa Vivesha, Pujita,
Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya,
Sa Vishnu Rato Titaya Agataya,
Tasmai Sarpayam Sirasa Jahara,
Tasmai Sapariyam Sirasa Jahara,
Tam Nivrittahi Abhuta Striyo Arbaka,
Tato Nivritta Yabuda Triyorika,
Mahashane Soba Vishvesha Pujita,
Mahashane Sopa Vishesha Pujita,
Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya is that yeah. Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya,
Sa Vishnu Rato Titaya Agataya,
Tato Vritahi Abhuta Striyo Ripaka,
Tato Nivritta Yamuda Striyorvaka,
Mahashane Soba Vivesha Pujita,
Mahasane Sopa Vivesha Pujita.
I think that was 3.
Yeah, you missed the second line.
I did?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Tasmai Saparyam Sirasa Jahara,
Tasmai Sapariyam Sirasa Jahara.
So even though it's irregularly chanted, it's still auspicious. Anyway, someone else?
Sa Vishnu Rato Tikitaya Agataya.
Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya,
Tasmai Sapariyam Sirasa Jahara.
Tasmai Saparyam Sirasa Jahara.
Tato Nivritta Yabuda Striyorvaka.
Tato Nivrittahi Abhuta Striyorvaka.
Mahasane Supavivesha Pujita.
Mahashane Soba Vivesha Pujita. Someone else?
Sa Vishnu Rato Titaya Agataya,
Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya,
Tasmai Saparyam Sirasayahara,
Tasmai Saparyam Sirasa Jahara,
Tato Nivrittahi Abhuta Striyo Ripaka,
Tato Nivrittahi Abhuta Striyo Ripaka,
Mahasane Sopa Vishesha Pujita,
Mahashane Sopa Vivesha Pujita,
Sa Vishnu Rato Titaya Agataya.
Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya,
Tasmai Saparyam Shirasa Jahara.
Tasmai Saparyam Sirasa Jahara,
Tato Nivrittahi Abhuta Striyorvaka.
Tato Nivrittahi Abhuta Striyorvaka,
Mahasane Sopa Vivesha Pujita.
Mahashane Sopa Vivesha Pujita,
Sa Vishnu Rato Tihaya Gataya.
Sa Vishnu Rato Tithaya Agataya,
Tasmai Saparayam Sirasa Halara.
Tasmai Saparyam Sirasa Jahara,
Tato Nirtam Hi Abhutam Sriyarabhaka.
Tato Nivrittahi Abhuta Striyorvaka,
Parvise Pujita.
Mahashane Sopa Vishesha Pujita.
Savishnu Rato Vidyaya Agataya.
Tasmai Saparyam Shirasai Sahara.
Tasmai Sakaryam Sirasa Jahara.
Tato Nirvita Hai Abhukash Deo Ripaka.
Tato Nirvitani Abhutastriya Viva.
Mahasane Sopa Vivesha Pujita.
Mahashane Sopa Vivesha Pujita.
Okay, so now for the word and the turning of the page. Oh, good, she's doing. Sa, He, Vishnu Rata, Maharaj Pariksit, who is always protected by Lord Vishnu.
Who is always protected by Lord Vishnu.
Atitaye, to become a guest.
To become a guest.
Agataya, one who arrived there.
One who arrived there.
Tasmai,
unto him.
Sarpayam, with the whole body. Sirasa, with bowed head. Ajahara, offered obeisances. Tata, thereafter. Nivrita, ceased. He, certainly. Abhuta, less intelligent. Striya, women. Arbaka, boys. Maha-ashane, exalted seat. Sa, he. Upavivesha, sat down. Bhujita, being respected. I want to say something about the less intelligent, but an incident I had a couple years ago, but maybe later. So, translation. I'll say, then you please repeat. Maharaj Pariksit, who is also known as Vishnu Rata, one who is always protected by Vishnu, bowed his head to receive the chief guest, Sukadev Goswami. At that time, all the ignorant women and boys ceased following Srila Sukadev Goswami. Receiving respect from all, Sukadev Goswami took his exalted seat. So Maharaj Pariksit, who is also known as Vishnu Rata, one who is always protected by Vishnu, bowed his head to receive the chief guest, Sukadev Goswami. At that time, all the ignorant women and boys ceased following Srila Sukadev. Receiving respect from all, Sukadev Goswami took his exalted seat. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. On Sukadev Goswami's arrival at the meeting, everyone except Srila Vyasadev, Narada, and a few others, I believe Parasurama was also there, stood up, and Maharaj Pariksit, who was glad to receive a great devotee of the Lord, bowed down before him with all the limbs of his body. Sukadev Goswami also exchanged the greetings and reception by embrace, shaking of hands, nodding, and bowing down, especially before his father and Narada Muni. Thus, he was offered the presidential seat at the meeting. When he was so received by the king and sages, the street boys and less intelligent women who followed him were struck with wonder and fear. So they retired from their frivolous activities, and everything was full of gravity and calm. So the verse again, Maharaj Parikshit, who is also known as Vishnu Vrata, one who is always protected by Vishnu, vowed, he said, to receive the chief guest, Sukadev Goswami. At that time, all the ignorant women and boys ceased following Srila Sukadev. Receiving respect from all, Sukadev Goswami took his exalted seat. So this is really incredible. They're in the forest, and either by the bank of the Jamuna or the bank of the Ganges, a sacred river. And there's all these great sages, including his own father, Vyasadeva, and then Narada Muni, who's the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. And Parasurama, it's stated somewhere else, is also there, Parasurama Muni, and he's the father of Vyasadeva. And yet, everyone immediately concludes that it's Srila Sukadeva Goswami who's the one to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam Maharaj Parikshit at this most important point of his life. I mean, because it's, as it's stated here, that the beginning of his life, his birth, he was cursed by a Brahmin, or he tried to attack him, or at least the son of a Brahmin anyway, and Ashwatthama, and with a Brahmastra, and he was protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And now, at the end, it's not really, it is the end of his life, but he's a young man, and he has everything to live for. He's the emperor of the world, and he has all this vigor, but he is accepting this curse by another Brahmin, who's the son of a Brahmin, again, who is not really qualified, as a blessing. He's accepting this as a blessing. This is a great opportunity, because now I can actually finally see that person that saved me in the womb. This is, not something that he's trying to get out of it anyway. He's not trying to, put blame somewhere else. He had all the abilities to do those, to make arrangements so this wouldn't happen, but he embraces it, and he's showing us an example. The real point is not what you achieve in this temporal world, this material existence here on this plane. It all will be taken away at death anyway. Even if he had lived a very long life, still he would have to face this moment. So now, why not do it when I'm fully in control of my senses? Instead, at the last end of your life, if you're very, very ill, it's hard to focus the mind. It's hard to keep control. You may be in so much pain. You may fall unconscious and then pass away. So now, and there's a prayer like that. I think his name is Kulashekar. He said, "Let me know the moment of my death, so that I can, while I'm in full control of my senses, that I will be able to prepare for it properly." And it was actually the very next moment. He got a benediction, and what he asked for as his benediction is to know the time of his death, and it was actually literally the next moment. So it's sort of a similar kind of situation. And so here's this personality that he has very bluish complexion. He doesn't care. He's not dressed properly. He's not dressed at all, apparently. And they immediately, all the great sages say, "You're the one that should speak." And there's no problem. Vyasadeva, Narada Muni is like next after Lord Brahma in the disciplic succession. He's the one who's the guru of Vyasadeva. And they all just stand back. Let's listen to Sukadeva Goswami. So, just imagine you're in some forest and you're seeing with all these great personalities, and then you see this person coming. It's just, the scene is just, it must be absolutely, like another transcendental world. You're in this bubble of serenity and seeing these great personalities and how they deal with these kinds of setbacks in their life, and then how they hurdle over it to the next world. So I would like to, use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about a similar. It's not exactly similar in the sense that it's Mara's Pritu, and it was mentioned the other day by Mara Priya in one of her classes that she mentioned a few other personalities like Jad Bharat, and she also mentioned the 4 Kumars. In Mara's Pritu, he had a situation. He was actually, let me just get a drink of water here. Excuse me. I bring this up because the Kumaras, it's how he receives them and how they automatically understand that these are great personalities. Mars Pritu was in a situation, I'm going to get to the whole backstory. He had been performing an Ashwamedha sacrifice. He wanted to do 100 of them. And when he got to the 99th, Lord Indra, the king of heaven, was becoming envious. He's a demigod, but he was becoming envious that Mars Pritu might be becoming as powerful as him, as have as much opulence as him. He was creating heaven on earth. And so he kept stealing the last horse. And in this also, Mars Pritu took off all of his royal attire and was wearing, I believe it was deerskin, and sitting down and performing this. And the last horse keeps getting stolen by Indra. That's another whole story. And they're actually, first of all, I believe Mars Pritu wants to, he wants to kill Indra. But then the Brahmin said, no, that's not a good idea, but we'll do some mantras and then we'll offer him into the fire or something like that. I can't remember exactly the specifics of it. I might be a little off here, but in any case, Brahma stops him. You can't do this. This is the king of heaven. He's a little overcome, by the modes of material nature at this moment. He's, like Arjuna asks Krishna, what is it that causes one to commit sin? Even though that you know better, even though you don't want, to do this, you don't want to do this, but you get overcome. And the Lord says it's lust and lust only. And then Krishna goes on to explain that every endeavor is covered with some kind of flaw. Just as when you have a fire, no matter how good the fire is, there's some smoke. There's always some smoke, or there's dust on a mirror. No matter how much you clean it, there'll always be some more dust. So every endeavor that we perform in this material world, there is something that's just not right. And so, and Krishna explains to him how to overcome this great enemy of our path to perfection, which is lust. So, Brahma preaches to Pritu, and he's listening to him, and then Vishnu arrives on the back of Garuda. And he gets off, and he actually he's not standing on the ground, he's holding Garuda to keep balance. He's sort of floating in the air. It says he's actually holding onto the back of Garuda. And then I wanted to read, he goes, and he's very, very pleased with Pritu. Now also we have to understand that Pritu is called Adiraj. He descended from the Vaikuntha planets. He was a Shaktavesha avatar, meaning he's a jiva, and he was empowered with the administrative powers of the Lord to show what a real monarch should be like. And thanks to him, he's the first administrator who created organized cities and towns. And before him, that wasn't going on. So you can trace it back to Pritamarsh, the organization of towns. So Vishnu then tells him, he predicts to him that, here it is, Lord Vishnu continued, my dear King Pritu, if you continue to protect the citizens according to the instructions of the learned Brahmin authorities, as they are received by the disciplic succession, by hearing from master to disciple, and if you follow the religious principles laid down by them without attachment to ideas manufactured by mental concoction, then every one of your citizens will be happy and will love you. Very soon, you will be able to see such already liberated personalities as the four Kumars, Sanaka, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar. And then he says, my dear king, I am very captivated by your elevated qualities and excellent behavior, and thus I am very favorably inclined toward you. You may therefore ask for me any benediction you like. One who does not possess elevated qualities and behavior cannot possibly achieve my favor simply by performance of sacrifices, severe austerities, or mystic yoga. But I am always remain equiposed in the heart of one who is also equiposed in all circumstances. So, this is about the qualities that we need to aspire for. And in the purport, actually, Prabhupada mentions the 26 qualities of a personality who is qualified to associate with personalities like the Kumars and Sukadeva Goswami and Narada Muni and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is our ultimate goal, is to develop these qualities. Of course, association is extremely important, but I was wondering, maybe we could see if, can anyone mention any of the 26 qualities?
Krishna's kind.
Krishna's, no, this is the 26 qualities of a pure devotee. I'm sure that's there, but it says compassionate.
Teachable, tolerant.
Tolerance, yes.
You know what I'll do? I'll read them, and then you can tell me if you remember any of them. 1, kind to everyone.
I remember that.
No, afterwards. 2, does not quarrel with anyone. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
3, fixed in the absolute truth. 4, equal to everyone. 5, faultless. 6, charitable. 7, mild. 8, clean. 9, simple. 10, benevolent. 11, peaceful. 12, completely attached to Krishna. 13, has no material hankering. 14, meek. 15, steady. 16, self-control. 17, does not eat more than required. 18, sane. 19, respectful. 20, humble. 21, grave. 22, compassionate. 23, friendly. 24, poetic. 25, expert. 26, silent. The Lord is satisfied by development of the transcendental qualities of the living entity, and not by artificial performances of sacrifice and mystic yoga. In other words, unless one is fully qualified to become a pure devotee of the Lord, one cannot expect to be liberated from material entanglement. So, who can remember 5 of them? Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were just...
No, well, say them. Which 5?
Kind, non-quarreling, silent, non-hankering for material.
Yeah, that's right. That's 4.
Focus on Krishna.
Do we accept that?
Devotee of Krishna.
Yeah,
Poetic. Expert.
Expert, that's right, expert. So, anyway, we used to do this sometimes, GBC, Rupanuga, he used to have everyone do a pop quiz and you had to write down as many as you could think of. Do you have your hand up? Or you?
No.
Excellent, okay. So, yeah. Then then he would say, well, the ones you can't remember, those are the ones that you need to look at. So, these are not artificial things, but if you know and you're aware of what is expected, so then you get the ability to get association with those persons, can you just imagine when you're in the atmosphere, or the atmosphere that's created by personalities like Narada Muni or Sukadeva Goswami, Vyasadeva, in that presence, or in where the four Kumars, like here. So after this all happens, Vishnu is very pleased with them. So then Indra gives a speech to his citizens, where he explains to them that, what their duties are, and if they perform their duties, you're doing good for me and for yourself, because I get reactions if you don't do your duties properly, or if you commit sin. And if you help me by doing your duties, I can help you better. And this is the way this is sort of a Reader's Digest version of it. And at the end of the talk, they all just go, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. They love it. And then it says, Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. So then, just as they're saying that, all of a sudden, over here, the next, says, here it is. The next, as they're saying that, the great sage Maitreya says, while the citizens were thus praying to the most powerful King Prithu, the four Kumars, who were as bright as the sun, arrived on the spot. Just imagine the sun walks into the room at that effulgence, that much light. That definitely is going to get everybody's attention and focused. So these four Kumars are now, and they're descending from the sky without any vehicle. Seeing the glowing effulgence of the four Kumars, the masters of all mystic power, the king and his associates could recognize them as they descended from the sky. Seeing the four Kumars, Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore the king, with all his officers very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Like, just imagine if there was a sale on shoes. How people, you see those things on Black Friday, how people go crazy to go get the best deal, that kind of thing. That's how anxiously they rush towards the Kumars to go receive them properly. But this is all transcendental. And they didn't have any airplanes, no vimana, they weren't on the back of something, they just descended down. Four young boys glowing like the sun, and they were about somewhere between 3, 4, or 5 years old. Usually it's like people say 5 years old. And so then he says, when the great sages accepted their reception according to the instructions of the Shastras and finally took their seats offered by the king, influenced by the glories of the sages, immediately bowed down. He worshipped the four Kumars. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumars and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful action, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced person. It says that even if anyone comes to your house, you should offer them some water and a seat and some kind words. And if any one of those things, like say you don't have any water, but you can offer them a seat. If you don't have a little asana, you can put a straw mat down. If you don't have a straw mat, then you clean the floor. If you can't even do that, then you definitely should at least offer some kind words and bow. It's not about, and then it's also described that it doesn't, people in the material world think that they are very important and advanced, but that the people, if someone like the four Kumars arrives at a poor man's house, their house is glorified and they are glorified. more than anyone who's living a very high material standard. There's nothing compares to that. So it's all auspicious for them. So the 4 great sages were elder to Lord Shiva, and when they were seated on the golden throne, they appeared like fire blazing on an altar. Mars Prithu, out of his great gentleness and respect for them, began to speak with great restraint as follows. King Prithu spoke, "My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult for even mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty." Of course, he just had Vishnu come to his place where he's performing the sacrifices, and Vishnu predicted this was going to happen. But he's so impressed that they have come, because it's said that they will not come to where there's any sin. And it's also said simultaneously that wherever they are, they eliminate all sin just by their presence. So, and in this case, they, instead, like today, when people, they have signs like, do not enter, no trespassing, they have cameras, security cameras, and they even have this law that if someone comes onto your property, to stand your ground. And they can use that as an excuse to shoot, to kill. Whereas here, these intruders appear on this property, and they're received as great personalities. And actually, there's one pastime with Prabhupada where he was on a morning walk, and they went, in India, all the cars, they kind of look the same, the ambassador. So the devotees sort of forgot exactly where they had parked, and they went into a car and thinking it was theirs, and the key didn't work. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong, and everyone's sitting in the car already. And then the owners came along, and it was a very embarrassing moment, and the owners weren't insulted at all. I mean, if this had happened in America, they would have immediately called 911, there would have been a big row, but instead, the owners were so overwhelmed that someone like Srila Prabhupada was sitting in their car. They insisted that they drive Prabhupada back to his place. I think they were trying to get him to go to their place so they could receive him properly, but that's the difference between cultures. Although India is becoming westernized, I don't know if it's still like that, but Prabhupada was always amazed how every house has big dogs barking, or all these signs with guns. So I'll continue here. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world, as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Prithu Maharaj continued, although you are traveling in all planetary systems, people cannot know you, just as they cannot know the Supersoul, although he is within everyone's heart as the witness of everything. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the Supersoul. A person who is not very rich and is attached to family life becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and censors are always, the masters and servants who are engaged in offering exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is also glorified. On the contrary, even though full of all opulence and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come in, and where there is no water for washing their feet, is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live.
Thank you.
Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to the four Kumars, addressing them as the best of the Brahmanas. He welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observed the vows of celibacy. And although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourself just as small children." You know, they were the first that Brahma created at the beginning of the creation, and for the purpose of creating praja or citizens to inhabit the universe, his new project. And they said, "No, we're sorry. We don't get entangled in the material things. We just don't want to do that. We want to stay like small children, so that we don't become involved in these material activities." So, and of course, Lord Brahma then became extremely angry, and through his right here, between his eyebrows, Lord Shiva came out, and so he's in charge of that aspect of creation, anger. This is the Rudra Shiva, not the original Shiva, but this is for the material creation. Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to the four Kumars and addressed them as the best of the Brahmanas. He welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observed the vows of celibacy, and although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourself just like small children." Prithu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in his dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? So it says, in here, it's discussed about how you can, everyone in this material world is struggling hard for sense gratification. All these points, Maharaj Prithu inquired from the four Kumars about the fallen conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world due to their past bad or inauspicious activities. So it's not how you receive, and then when they do arrive and you receive them properly, then what to say. You don't ask, what is, what's going to happen with the stock market, or things of this nature. You have to ask, in questions about what is the purpose of our human form of life, and what is the difference between the human form of life and the animal existence. And this is what Prithu Maharaj, he is teaching his citizens how to use the human form of life. This is why he is so glorious. So he knows how to associate with these personalities, and he's giving his entire kingdom the opportunity to associate with these eternally liberated personalities like the four Kumars. Not just, more, material wealth, temporary, facilities for sense gratification. Prithu Maharaj continued, "My dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune, because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how in this material world, we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life." So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his parts and parcels, and for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. So, this is how Maharaj Prithu received the four Kumars, and this is the perfection of one's existence, is to have the opportunity to associate with great transcendental personalities like this. And Katya's gone?
Maybe in the pujar room?
Katya!
Upstairs.
Upstairs. Anyway, I'm going to read it at least, okay? This is a song by Narottam Das Thakur. And it's about the, well, it's self-evident. E Bora Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai, Patita Pavana Toma Bina Keho Nai. O Vaishnava Goswami, please be merciful to me now. There is no one except you who can purify the fallen souls. Jahara Nikate Gela Papa Dure Joy. E Monadoya Prabhu Keba Kota Pai. Where does anyone find such merciful personalities by whose mere audience all sins go away? And that's one thing that is stated with Sukadeva Goswami. I believe it's going to come up that he has the ability to destroy all the sinful reactions of all the conditioned souls simply by his presence and by his words, by the sound vibration. Haristane aparade, Gangira parasa hoire paschate pavan, darshane pavitra koro e tomorrow gone. After bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges, many times one becomes purified, but just by the sight of you, the fallen souls are purified. This is your great power. Haristane aparade Tare Harinam, Tomastane aparade Nahi Paritram. The holy name delivers one who is committed an offense to Lord Hari. But if one commits an offense to you, there is no means of deliverance. Tomara hridaye shata Govinda Vishram, Govinda Kohin Amora Vaishnava Param. Your heart is always resting place of Lord Govinda. Your Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. Prati janme kori asa charanera dule, naratama korodoya apanana boli. I desire the dust of your lotus feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottam yours and be kind upon me. So, again, birds of a feather flock together. So our goal should be to develop the qualities, those 26 qualities that were mentioned in the purport. Completely attached to Krishna, faultless, meek, mild, clean, sober, compassionate, completely attached to Krishna. You want to sing?
You can read, no?
You give me the melody. We can. How's the melody go again? I forgot. E Bora that's it. E Bora Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai. Anyone have the words? No? You have it on your phone?
Yeah, you can just play. I can. Good.
Okay, so if you do find it, you can help. E Bora Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai Patita Pavana Toma Bine Kehonai Jahara Nikate Gela Papa Dure Jai Emona Doyala Prabhu Kela Kota Gangara Prarasa Hoile Pastate Pavan Dashana Pavitra Koro Ekoma jame kori asa charanera duri narotama kora doya apana labori egora karuna koro Vaishnava Gosai Patita Pavana Soma Dineke Hona Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Shukadev Goswami ki, Maharaj Parikshit ki, Maharaj Parikshit ki, Four Kumaras ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Narottam Das Thakur ki, Go Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. Any questions?
Well, what was the translation of the song?
Oh, this, okay, I thought I did read it once, but I'll read it again. Yeah. O Vaishnava Gosai, please be merciful to me now. There is no one except you who can purify the fallen souls. Where does anyone find such a merciful personality by whose mere audience all sins go away? Sudhir Goswami, Four Kumaras. Every time I say Four Kumaras, I'll tell you later. After bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges many times, one becomes purified. By just the sight of you, the fallen souls are purified. This is your great power. The holy name delivers one who has committed an offense to Lord Hari. But if one commits an offense to you, there is no means of deliverance. Your heart is always the resting place of Lord Govinda. And Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. I desire the dust of your holy feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottam yours, and be kind upon me. Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. So, anyway, when I say four Kumars, it reminds me of a song that my son, who was probably about 3 years old at the time, he wrote a song. He wrote a couple of songs. His mother and I were recording things all the time. So he had a microphone one day, and he starts, and actually knew how to turn the recorder on. He starts singing, four Kumars, four Kumars, four Kumars, four Kumars. It's very catchy. Every time you hear four Kumars, you just start going, four Kumars, four Kumars, four Kumars, four Kumars. Sanatan, Sunanda, Sanatan, Sunanda. You name the four Kumars like that. He was like 3 years old. He sang that song. So every time I hear four Kumars, I hear four Kumars. Four Kumars.
Oh no.
That was,
Sing the song.
yes.
Hey, I just want to ask a question.
Okay.
So, what does the quality poetic mean? I read that poetic means that devotee wants to write literatures about Krishna, and like it's natural for him to want to spread Krishna consciousness through writing books. But maybe, like, what exactly does it mean? Also, like poetic.
Well, I think poetry is a deep subject. I mean, there's poetry in your life. You live a poetic life. In the sense that it's in harmony and it's in rhyme and rhythm, but also there's poetry, other types. Sometimes you can just write, like Prabhupada wrote, Adoy, Adoy, all the happy day, blessed than heaven, sweeter than May, when you appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, His divine grace. The Adoy Adoy All poem. And when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada read that poem, he said, anything he writes should be published. He wrote some very beautiful poems, the poem that he wrote when he arrived in the Boston Harbor. So, and that melody was actually Sankarshan Prabhu came up with that. And the Murari Band did a very nice sort of gospel version of it. It was really nice. It's on the, you can actually, if you Google Murari Band, you can see Adoy Adoy All, you can hear it. Yeah.
But what also graveness? I mean,
grave.
Sense Vaishnava is grave.
Grave is that you're not frivolous. I mean, there's not lightheartedness, and but
Serious.
you're serious. You're about, and I'm serious about my humor. Seriously, and there's gravity to you. There's weight. You carry weight. You're not, but at the same time, you have a lightness about you, but you're not frivolous. You're not, it's very correct because it's a serious thing. We're facing death. There's no doubt. Some of us have almost experienced it, and we've seen people die. And it's a big shock. I mean, there's a very nice, in the Prabhupada, I know you had your hand up, but I'll get to you. No, when at Prabhupada's Memories, this one Mataji is talking about how she walked in with this one woman whose daughter was dying. The daughter was like 12 or 13. I think they were in Vrindavan. And they said to Prabhupada, her daughter is dying. The woman said, my daughter is dying. He said, yes. Have you not heard me? We are all dying. You are dying, I am dying, your daughter is dying. And there's nothing to lament, I mean, you miss that person, you feel the separation of that soul. Like we were saying that the other day in one class, there was some verse, I believe, or I was reading something somewhere, that the great soul has now left, and so now we can no longer see him. But you have the instructions. You have there, like Srila Prabhupada, you have your memories. No one can take away your memories. You always have that. And you have the books and you have the letters, of Srila Prabhupada. But you miss theirs. But you can associate that way, through the sound vibration. We can't see Krishna. I mean, we see him through sound vibration. We see the form, and someday he'll talk to us. Or Radharani will. What was the question?
No, I was asking in which sense devotee is grave.
Grave, yeah. So grave, yeah. How do I get there? So grave is that we take our, we're very serious about things. We're serious. So it's like also gravity has to do with, to be successful in anything. Like say if you're going to school and you want to study to be an anthropologist or an MD or whatever, to the extent that you commit yourself to that process, to that learning, that will be the extent of how successful you are. You have to be committed. How much you absorb. This is the process of bhakti yoga. And I read the books, I understand it, and then I try to commit myself, full mind, body, everything, into this process, chanting my rounds, trying to control my mind, coming to the morning program like that, being committed. Then, Ye tamam prapajan ste tam tatayavas pajamyaham. As you surrender to me, I will reward you accordingly. So, to be committed to the process, not just to do the minimum. Like when I was in college, I just did the minimum. Once I figured out the game, I just, realized I could just show up occasionally, pick up the homework, and know when the test was, and just show up for the test. No big whoop. So that's the minimum, and sometimes I wouldn't even study, and just, it was a multiple choice, I just guessed. Sometimes you went, but that's not being committed. I wasn't committed. Even if I got a good grade, like that, to really absorb yourself seriously. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Did you had something?
Well, yeah, before I thought we were still going to be on poetics, so I was going to say that I notice when I read the great devotees' descriptions of Krishna and their feelings about Krishna, they use a lot of metaphors. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that, which is a factor in poetry, a lot of metaphors, really beautiful ones. Yeah. And when one uses metaphors like naturally, not in a contrived way, and so let me think of a metaphor, but just speaks it naturally, it's out of realization.
Yeah, and it's also reciprocation, because as I was just mentioning, that if you're really committing yourself to understanding some points in the philosophy and you have to explain it, out of your mouth will come words or metaphors, that you, on the spot, that are gifts from Super Soul. That's why Prabhupada would re-listen to his classes, because he did, and this Tribhuvanath, he's passed away, but he was a really ecstatic devotee in England, and he was there with Prabhupada, I think at Bury Place or Soho, I don't remember. And they noticed every morning after class, when he'd go up to his room, Prabhupada would listen to the tape of his class. And they were like, what's going on? And so finally one devotee had the nerve to ask, Prabhupada, why do you listen to your class? He says, well, I want to find out what I said. Because Paramatma spoke. Just like when he enjoyed devotees reading the Krishna book to him, or he enjoyed reading his own books, because he said, Krishna wrote this book, not me.
I learned.
Yeah, I've read that.
Says he learned.
Huh?
He learns from it.
He learns from it, yes, he learns from it, yes. I mean, every time I read it, I find something new. Like that time I was reading about them leaving Mahavana to go to Vrindavan, and I realized the cowherd boys who were Vaishyas got bows and arrows to protect. And so they were acting as Kshatriyas. So Varnashram is not such a rigid, it can be like like Ashvatthama and Dronacharya, they're Brahmins, Well, Dronacharya was a Brahmin, Ashwatthama was the son of a Brahmin. And, but they were involved in military actions. They were in the battle. Anything else? Anyway, thank you very much for your attention. I hope something, this story of Prithu Maharaj is very, the whole story of the Prithu Maharaj, at the end of it, everything in Krishna consciousness is blessed with benedictions. And the Bhagavatam especially, but when you read certain pastimes, like the end of the Dhruva Maharaj story, or the end of the battle between Varaha and Aranyaksha, or the whole pastime of Maharaj Prithu at the end, there's all these verses that list all these different kinds of benedictions that you can get. Of course, the ultimate benediction is never to forget Krishna, always to remember Krishna in any species of life, and always have the association of his devotees that are always glorifying the pastimes in name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the ultimate benediction. But it's nice to read Prithu Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Right.